With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Okay, so the next one for your mom is this one's pretty cool. Like, I read it, I was like, wow, that's different. It has to do with a graveyard and a wolf.
Yes, that one. I love this one because I actually visited those a lot when I was like 16, 17. I used to drive out to Rock Hall all the time and visit these grave sites and go on these nature trails and everything. There's only one I haven't been able to visit. I eventually want to visit. The only reason I haven't visited this last one is because the graveyard is overgrown and nobody can really get to it unless they clear out some undergrowth and thorns and all that. But the one that my mom experienced with the ghost wolf is, I'm trying to remember what cemetery it is, but it is in Rock Hall. It's one of the publicly accessible graveyards. I don't remember the name, but it is old and it's on the left hand side as you're coming to Rock Hall. It's kind of, I'd say, probably 2-3 miles right outside of the town. So there's a road that's right next to it. There's a brick wall that goes around this graveyard, and in the middle of this graveyard is a church. And then on the outside of the brick wall is maybe 2-3 feet of grass, and then it's the road. And it's like a back road. So the urban legend goes you sit your car in park and you turn it off. It's said that your car will get pushed forward by a wolf or a white dog. They were never really specific on it, but that was the urban legend. So, of course, my mom being a teenager at the time, she's like, cool, let's do it. Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. Scary. Ooh. And so her and a couple friends, it was her friend's car. Now, it's important to note that there was nothing on this car mark-wise before they went. No handprints, no paw prints, nothing. It was a little dusty, but that's about it. So they get there and they put their they do what the legend says. They get to the store, they park it in front of the graveyard, and they turn off the car. And this is a stick shift, if that's important. It is a stick shift vehicle. It's the late 80s at the time. And they start feeling the car move forward as soon as they turned it off. And it started slowly inching forward, and they started freaking out. It's like, oh my god, we gotta go. And they peeled wheels out of there like, holy crap. So when they got back to my mom's house, it was her mom's house actually, so where my mom lived at the time, and they put the car in park, they looked at the vehicle and it had paw prints on the hood of the car. And it was like big paw prints that were on this hood. And mind you, the owner didn't own any dogs. There was no dogs at my mom's. So how did these paw prints get on this car that supposedly there was supposed to be a ghost wolf or ghost dog that was roaming that area? So I thought that was like, oh my god, that's so cool. I've yet to try it myself, but I wish they had like cell phones at that time, so because that would have been a cool picture to see.
I was just trying to type this in really quickly as you were saying this, since it's this local legend. Have you actually found any documentation or it mentioned in any articles?
I just talked to locals about it. It's just like a little like urban by mouth thing. I've never really seen
Right.
anything online about it, but it was very, very popular with the locals at the time.
That's a cool story. I like that one. I love local legends like that. And of course, there's all kinds of legends of, ghosts that will push cars and things like this. And I know that there's been tests on I've seen them on TV shows and stuff. So who knows? But, where they're like, oh, well, it's actually, a trick of of essentially what your brain and your eyes are playing a trick on you because it's actually downhill. But that doesn't explain the paw prints on the hood.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, that is so cool. Like, I could explain everything else. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's a little creepy. I was like, but it could be like a hill because it's just a little hilly there.
Right.
But the paw prints, I can't explain that, and neither could my mom. She could not explain the paw prints.
That is cool. I like that story.
Oh yeah, definitely. I that's like the cool stuff I hope to witness one day. The closest thing I've had happen to that is I don't know if I included this in my email, but that actually kind of jogged a memory. So me and my fiance would go out to this farm, and it's a long lane out there. It's towards Smyrna, Delaware, but it's like towards the more country fielded part because the guy that he knew that we would go down the lane. This was like one of his like side farms that we would go fishing on. There's two ponds there, and there was a gate that you would be able to open up and go in, and then go fishing on these ponds. And it's like hundreds of acres. I think it's like 150 something acres, something like that. It was a lot of acreage. We went out there a lot to just hang out. We were chillaxing and listening to music. I was sitting at the time. I had a Cadillac DTS, the 2007 Cadillac DTS. So it's a boat of a car. It's a big car, and I had it in park. I had it, I had the lights turned off, but it was running. So we were relaxing. I kid you not, something shook the car. I mean, it was like something landed on top of the car and like made the car bounce. Like if you were to jump in the seat, in the back seat, and like how a car would shake if you sat down really hard in the back seat, that's what it felt like. And you could hear something like land on top. My fiance was like, "What the hell was that?" And so we got ourselves together and we like rushed outside of the car and had our phone lights out looking to see like, hey, what was that? Maybe it was like a big bird or something. But I don't know of anything that is in Delaware that would be big enough to shake a Cadillac. That's a big car to be shaken. An owl wouldn't do that. I mean, it would make tippy taps on the hood, but it would never, an owl's not going to make the whole car shake. And I think that's literally the only night mammal, or not mammal, night bird, nocturnal bird that would, be able to fly at night and, land on the car. Because when we looked, it's a dirt road, so you would see footprints, you would see something running away, you would be able to hear, there was woods and long grass, you would hear something running. When we got out of the car, it was absolutely silent. There was nothing, no signs of anything that would have, jumped on the car like a deer or something like that. And that would have definitely broken glass if a deer, jumped on there. And fox isn't going to jump that high. We don't have coyotes. We don't have wolves. We don't have anything big enough out there that would be nocturnal that would be able to shake the car and not leave a trace. It's as if something big, like huge, like person size, landed on top of the roof of the car, or maybe even the trunk of the car, and landed and then flew away. But there was nothing when we got out, but something shook that car. And to this day, my fiance is still freaked out about going out there. We haven't really been out there like that since, because he's like, what the hell was that? We peeled out of there when we found out there was nothing. We didn't hear any sounds, and that's the crazy part. It was silent. Usually there's bugs going off, like crickets chirping. There's a stream that goes through there. Usually you would hear frogs. Something would have been. There was nothing, no wildlife noise, nothing. It was just completely silent. So we hauled ass out of there.
Well, how much open, clear space is around your car, and how close is tree line to your car at that point?
Oh, so it's a thin, like, hedgerow, about 100 to 200 feet from the car, but everything else is open field. You can see through the tree lines, and you can see mile or two with the clearings, with the fields. It's a cornfield, so they harvest corn out there, and then it's just like that hedgerow because they can't cut down the trees with the stream there.
Well, your fiance is probably right to stay away because it's obviously the creature from Jeepers Creepers,
I would not want to run into that. That's a scary guy.
Yeah, that dude is definitely on the no list. No, those are the kind of stories that, I mean, you're going, well, could it be a Bigfoot? Well, could it be God knows what, like I said, something with wings, because there are reports of stuff like that. I mean, you got the Mothman, you got other flying humanoid type things out there as well. I mean, that's weird. I love stories like that because then your brain's like, gosh, knowing what we know to be possibly out there, it could be all kinds of things. That one's creepy.
Oh yeah.
I don't blame you for not wanting to go back out there.
Yeah, that was a scary experience. Like our like hearts were racing out there. We were like, we got to get out of here. Like, I don't want to be eaten. I don't want to be the next person in the news. Like, got attacked by a wild animal. Like, and it not even be a wild animal. Like, be something completely different. Like, nope, I don't. That's a big nope for me.
They're like, we've never seen wounds quite like this before. Yeah, you don't want to be that person. So there was no other people out there that you could see on the way in, the way out?
No, this was like 3 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a soul out there.
Tick something off. They're like, this is my time, people.
They did not want us there. Whatever it was, did not want us there. The wildlife was afraid of it because they weren't making any noise. So I definitely think it was a smart move to get out of there, because the thought popped into my head, what if it was some sort of creature that had some sort of cloaking? And that's the reason why we didn't hear it, because it was just staying still, probably where we could not see it and have some sort of camouflage or cloaking. Like, that would make complete sense. If it's something like of the unknown, like, what if it was just concealing itself and just right outside of our view? And that's scary, because it's like, it could have took us out if it really wanted to.
Oh, maybe it was still standing on the dang car, and if you can't see it, you can't see it,
Oh, Lord, that would be so scary if it was, like, just standing there, like, looking at me and just be completely cloaked. Oh, Lord. Oh, that's so scary.
Well, I mean, especially considering the things that you've already shared that you've been in contact with, and they've been in contact with you. I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, if these things are powerful enough to come out of lucid dreams or take different forms, and I mean, this is a huge ball of wax that just starts dripping and it can go in any direction, right? But I'm just saying, considering what you've already shared, who knows what that was?
Oh yeah. I don't put it past. It could have definitely, been something like that for sure. I really don't put it past them at all.
Now, this last thing on your mom's list here, it says the one with the deceased ex. Is that what you already shared about Joe from the seance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to cross that one off. I just, there's no reason to be cruel to people. That bums me out to hear that. Sorry to your mom, for going through that. But obviously she's strong and she gets through stuff, so.
Absolutely. She's a warrior. She is. She's the toughest woman I know.
All right, so the next thing for you is these two shadow people.
Oh yeah, definitely. So those guys, I got the sense that they're both male. One I've confirmed is definitely male. So the first time I seen these guys was at the Dover house that I was staying at. I was in my bedroom. I had the door closed, but cracked just enough so I could see the hall light. And the first time I encountered him, he was so quick. I mean, like a blink of an eye, you would have missed him. And he was literally as tall as my door frame. His shadow went from the bottom of my door frame to the top of my door frame. And he was like skinny. He was skinny and very, very tall. I put him probably about 7.5 feet tall, and he was very, very quick. Now, they've never done me any harm. I just think they just kind of hang out. And then the second one, and I would, the first one I would see a lot, actually. I would just kind of see him out of the corner of my eye. I still do every once in a while. I'll see like a really quick movement out like the corner of my eye where I swear I see a shadow, and I think maybe it's one of my cats, but my cats are nowhere to be found. They'll be upstairs or something like that. And I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? And the second one was, so I had seen him a couple times, and he was just as quick as the other shadow. The difference with this one is a little shorter. It was about 6.5, 7 feet tall. And I got a good look at him through, like, I know this sounds cliche and they say that the filter doesn't work, but it was literally, believe it or not, it was a TikTok filter. What, you know, that one that was going around that was really popular with like the different colors, and people swore up and down, it almost looked like a thermal type of coloring, but it would have like the trails if you moved it, and it would have like trails following the figure or whatever that, if you were a person, it would follow you, but it would also leave a trail behind you. So, I mean, I was messing around with that, fooling around with that, and I happened to, just point it at the chair, and mind you, there was nobody sitting in the chair at the time. It was the person that was 7 feet tall or so, 6.5, 7 feet tall. He was sitting down, and I could see the outline of his clothes. He had what looked like a button up, because I could see the collar, long sleeve, because you could see like the outline of what, where the button and the fabric of the clothes would meet. And he had like a comb over type of style, because you could see the outline of what would be like maybe like a 50s kind of like comb over style with like a medium length kind of hair. And he had a pipe sticking out from his mouth, and he was crossing his legs. His legs came out like from the chair, it came out about another foot from the chair. So he had long legs, and he had his legs crossed, and he had like fancy shoes on, and like almost like business trousers, like the straight leg, like what older people wear, what they would wear in like the 50s, 40s, 50s. They would wear the long, straight type of business pants. And so I was like, oh, that's cool looking. I was like, hey, babe, look at this. I was like, that looks like a guy. I was like, and then I started sketching it out so I could keep it in my memory. And he wasn't really paying attention at the time because he had other things going on. So, and at that time, he didn't really believe in the paranormal, so he didn't really take interest in what I was fooling around with at the time. He just let me do my thing and did his thing with that. And then I took a sketch of it and jotted it down for later. And then I showed him again. I talked to him and described this entity to him about a year or two later. And he said, and mind you, before we go forward, I've never seen a picture of this person, ever. I've never seen the person. I've never interacted with the person. I've never seen a picture of the person. So I described this entity to my fiance, and he said, that is my uncle. And he had passed away before I had seen that figure. And it was recent. It was just after his passing that I had actually started seeing the second figure. And he's like, that sounds exactly like my uncle. I said, did he always have a pipe in his mouth? He's like, he always had a long pipe in his mouth. Everything that I had described about this figure was exactly describing what his uncle looked like. And he was a very tall man. He was about 6.5, 7 feet tall. Very tall man. So that was like, oh, that's cool. So I guess your uncle is haunting your house. Which makes sense because his uncle's brother, my fiance's dad, is the one who owns that house.
Now, did you only see him for a couple of weeks, or did he stick around for longer than that?
Oh, he stuck around. He's probably still, hanging out there. Little things will go missing, and I think he plays practical jokes on them. I think he sticks around for my fiance's dad, because ever since that day, I mean, I never really stopped seeing him. We ended up moving out of that house, but I'm pretty sure he's still roaming around there.
So is that how he was in life? Kind of a prankster, a jokester?
He was a funny guy. From what my fiance describes to me, he's a funny guy, and he really liked having a good time, and he was funny and serious from what I understand. So maybe serious at times, but he was a very, very humorous guy. Yeah.
That's a cool story.
It makes me happy knowing that, even though, because Pops took his death really hard, which is my fiance's dad. We call him Pops. He took it pretty hard, and he has a lot of his belongings with him. So it's good to know that at least he's sticking around, I think, for him.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the Hatman now.
Oh, yes, him. So that was a recent thing too. I never seen the Hatman when I was younger. I didn't have encounters with him when I was younger. He decided to show up in my 20s actually within the past year. So he decided to show up on my mom's steps. I take residence down in the basement. I've kind of made it my own little apartment. And there's steps like right above my head a little bit. So the way it's laid out, the steps come down and out, and then my bed's like to the left of the stairs. So I woke up one night. I don't know why I woke up, but I happened to look over to the stairs, and there was this shadow figure, and it looked exactly like how Hatman is described. He had like a fedora on and a long trench coat type thing. And I couldn't see any features. He was like blacker than black, and I could only see like the top half of him. He didn't, for some reason, it like faded out as it got to his feet. Couldn't see his feet, but I could see like the top half of him, and he was just kind of just staring at me, just standing there. And I ended up drifting off back to sleep, surprisingly enough. Like, hi. um, Weirdly enough, I don't know how I went back to sleep, but I just went back to sleep, and then he was gone the next day. I was like, did I just make that up? Or and then I did a little bit of research, and I was like, so this thing exists. I'm like, oh, didn't know that. I really didn't even hear about the Hatman until after I had seen him. I'm like, oh, okay. So he decided to show himself to me only like once. I don't know if he hangs around from like the other encounters I did while researching. Like he kind of sticks around, but he only showed himself to me one time. But I didn't get anything like menacing from him. He seemed more like a protector than anything. He seemed like he was just watching over me. He didn't give off any menacing vibes or any angry vibes or anything like that.
Do you think there's any chance that he's more a classic ghost, and that's just maybe some of the dress that he was utilizing when he was still alive, and he's tied to the girl somehow?
It's definitely a possibility. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't even think about that. That could be. I did not do any research on any of the men that stayed here at one point, but that's definitely a possibility.
I mean, so is yours, right? It's all just guesses.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
but at least you didn't get that menacing feeling, because that's when you said that you're like, well, I didn't feel any menace coming from him. I thought, well, maybe maybe he's just a classic ghost. But that's good that you didn't feel that, since that's where you sleep, that's where you stay. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, I have come down into the basement, into my little abode. So I have butterfly shaped Christmas, what people call Christmas lights. I call them like little fairy lights. But I have them strung across one of the support beams on the ceiling. And there has been many a time where I've come down here. Now, there's no way to change the settings on these. They have like different settings on them, but they have to be changed through a remote or a button that is on the plug. There is no other way to really change the settings. And there has been many a time where I've come down here and I keep them on a solid light. There have been many times where I've come down and they have been blinking in different patterns that are preset patterns for the lights, but they be blinking. I'm like, how? How? And my mom said, oh, your Nana loved Christmas lights. I'm like, oh, so she's just messing with me now. Okay. And there's been many times where that's happened. I've come down. My Alexa, I have an Alexa Dot. She has just come on by herself playing random music, just like my sister and my mom's have.
What kind of music comes on? Do you recall the songs?
One of them was, I think, was calling out my mom. It was basically a song. It was a country song, and mind you, I don't listen to country. I am not big into country. It was a country song about letting go, and she had just recently broken up with her now ex boyfriend. They had been together for 13 years, and it was about letting go, and she was having a rough time at that time. And I was like, "Oh, why mine? Why not go on hers?" But she played it on mine for some reason, and I told my mom about it. It's like, "Hey, mom, come down here and listen to this." And mom was like, "Oh my god." It's like, that makes sense. I was like, "She's calling you out. She's calling you out, mom."
Absolutely.
And she'll do it real quick, where she'll do it through the Alexa, and Alexa, stop. She'll do it through A, and it'll always be in music of some sort. And my nana was a huge country fan. She loved country, and it's always either country or like a country rock that'll be playing on there. And it's always calling one of us girls out. It'll either be calling me out on something, calling my mom out on something, or calling my sister out on something.
All right, so I'm looking at the list here. So now we did touch on this a little bit, and of course that is the flashes of light, which you interpret as being that female being. So let's go into that a little bit deeper, as far as how often you see these flashes of light, where you see the flashes of light, especially in relation to maybe what's going on that day or that week, or what your mindset is, things like that. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So most of the time, I'll be driving, believe it or not, when I see these flashes. The first time I ever seen the flash, I was driving in downtown Dover, and the part that I was driving in, there's no traffic cameras, nothing that would cause a flash. And the best way I can describe the way these flashes are is almost like if you had a camera on with the flash on, with that little like multiple bursts. That's what I would describe it as. The first time I seen it, I was driving, I was at an intersection, I was at a stoplight, and then all of a sudden, I mean, like, it was all but a second. There was like a flash, 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 and it would be like the quick succession that you would get from like a camera. So I was looking around, I was like, "There's no camera lights here." It's like, what is going on? And the height of it was like there's a Dairy Queen across from that light that I was stopped at. It was literally right in front of me, the Dairy Queen. It was above the building. There was nothing for like a camera, or there was nothing to cause that.
Hmm.
There's no power lines. There was nothing. It was just a flash, 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 like a camera would, but there's nothing there for a camera to be on. And so I was like, okay, that was weird. So I just chalked it up, thought nothing of it. I was like, that was just, maybe I'm just seeing things. About, I want to say a couple months later, I was in that same area. I was doing a DoorDash. I was doing a delivery. And again, it was around that same area, but this time it was a little more to the right of that same building, but way up above it. And it's that same flash, flash, flash. And it was so bright, like it would light up like that whole area there. It was very, very bright, and it would happen very, very quick. And it would happen when there was like very little traffic. Like there was, I was literally the only one on the road at that time, because it was like really early in the morning, like 1, 2 in the morning. And that was the second time. The third time I seen it, I was home. I was coming home. I was getting out of the car, and I was coming into the house. And I swear to you, it was like behind me. I saw the yard light up. I didn't see the flash itself, like the source of the flash this time, but I did see like all around me flash up in that same manner. And that was the last time I seen it. And that was about a month or two ago.
And it's always in that same quick burst, like 3 bursts, like flash, flash, flash.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always like in a 3 burst. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I have not been able, I've tried doing research on it. What in the world is this? Has anybody else had this experience? And I can't find anything on it. I have done lots of online research trying to figure out if, anybody else has had it. And I can't find anything on it. Like, what is going on? So I still haven't figured that one out. I'm waiting for it to happen again. So maybe, I can be ready and, maybe be able to have like maybe a dash cam or something, maybe a ring camera to be able to capture it. But I haven't been able to figure out a pattern to it or where it's going to happen.
No, you said earlier, and maybe I misconstrued it, but you think that this has something to do with the female being from that dream that you mentioned, or no? This is separate.
No, I definitely feel like it has something to do with her. I think it's her following me around and just reiterating like, yeah, I'm here. Don't forget, I'm here. maybe to remind me to work on myself, maybe, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know if she's trying to remind me of something or just reminding me that she's there, but I definitely have that gut feeling that it's her. Given the fact that it's almost a little similar to what my fiance had said about that ball of light, except it's flashes instead of like that solid solid light.
Have you noticed a pattern as far as maybe how you're feeling that day, or I don't? Is there any kind of a pattern as far as when you're seeing these flashes?
When when I see them, I'm in an uncertain type of mood. Like maybe I'm uncertain about like a path I'm taking or a move that I'm making. That seems to be when these happen. It seems like.
Well, so that would tie back in with your gut feeling then that she's just trying to guide you somehow.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but that's my guess.
I mean, it's just as good of a guess as any, right? I mean, but when you're at home, is it stranger to have it happen when you're, back at home and walking into your house, or when you're just at a random stoplight and it's over a Dairy Queen?
To be honest, the fact that it's happened more than once at a stoplight, I would expect it to happen more at the stoplight
Yeah.
than at home. It kind of caught me a little off guard when it happened at the house. Like, oh, okay, that's a little different. Okay, I was like, the other times you did it while I was at this specific spot, but no, you had to do it while I was home this time. Okay.
Yeah, that's very unique and very strange.
Yeah, definitely. Especially since I couldn't find anything online. Like usually I'm like able to find like a little sliver of something with most of my encounters, like something similar or but I haven't the closest thing I could find that was kind of like it was ball lightning and but it it did not match.
Yeah.
Ball lightning just did not match.
Ball lightning is a extremely rare event to have happened.
Mhm.
So for you to see it a few times like that would probably, I don't know what the odds are, but they would not be good. So like at the stoplight, and it's over the Dairy Queen, essentially, right? What is
Mhm.
and just bear with me for a minute while I try to get out and what's in my brain, but would it be just like there would be a person standing on the roof of the Dairy Queen with like if you have like a nice camera and it's got one of those huge flashes that, well, nowadays it wouldn't even be this, but I used to have a decent camera way back in the day that's crap now, but that had actual film that you would slide this huge flash on the top of it, right? And then it would
Mhm.
essentially, I mean, it was very bright. Would it be like that, or would it light up the whole area like it was something like way up in the sky, much like that UFO with the yellow belly that your mom saw? What would I guess what would the cast off be is what I'm asking.
The castle now it would be the way I would describe it is yes, it was like the height that if somebody was like being really weird and decided to like, hey, I'm gonna climb on top of the Dairy Queen and take random pictures. It was that height, but the flash that came from it lit up the entire area that
Oh
I was in.
gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh.
was very confused by that. I was like, I don't know a camera that can light up an entire area like that. And it was only like I said for those like quick successions that it did it, but I could catch like how far this light, expanded.
And these
Mm.
are these cloudy nights, cloudless nights. This is not like actual just lightning, off in the distance and kind of making you,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely not. They were clear nights. All three of them actually were clear nights.
That's weird. If anybody has
Yeah,
seen something like that, please get in touch with me so I can forward that on, because that's unique.
yeah, and I couldn't. I even looked up because I was like, okay, well, maybe it's a weather phenomenon that I don't know about. Like I said, the closest thing I could find, but it didn't explain the flashing and how bright it was ball lightning, and it just did not fit the bill.
Yeah, those are cool. I'm trying to think of. I mean, there's definitely been experiences with certain kinds of flashes of light coming from places that people are like, it's not a car going by, it's not lightning, and varying levels of cast off as far as how far the light goes, where the light touches. So that's a lot
Hmm.
of area covered then. And it was the same at your house because you said like, oh, it's like lighting up the whole area.
Yeah. It was really weird, and it always seems to happen like really early in the morning or the middle of the night because I'm mainly up in the middle of the night. I'm very rarely actually up during the daytime. My sleep schedule, because it's like you already know, my job is graveyard shift, so I'm very rarely open up and about during the daytime. So all of these have been happening like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, early in the morning before the sun rises.
Has your mom ever seen the flashes of light around the house or anywhere else ever?
She has not, and I'm kind of bummed out about that because that's the one person I would definitely go to about that,
Right.
trying to figure it out.
Right. And the cool thing is she would tell you if she did too. So, yeah.
Yeah, she's never lied to me before about stuff like that. She's been, she's one of those people that she either tells you the truth or she'll be like, eh, she'll let you know like, but like, hey, that's not right. She's like, no, that's not right. That's not no. But she'll be bold about it. She'll tell you up front about anything,
Tell you it's a
especially when it
bunch of
comes to that
bollocks.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So last but not least, we are going to talk about a place that I googled it since reading your email because I hadn't heard of this place. It's called Pea Patch Island in Fort Delaware.
Oh yeah, I love that place. That's one of my favorite places. Yes, Fort Delaware. So, a bit of a back history. It was used during the Civil War. It was a prison, and also a fort. Obviously, the name Fort Delaware. So, it's a little island called Pea Patch Island, and it's surrounded by ocean, and you have to take a ferry to get there. When you get there, you get on this little piece of land, and then there's a little like bridge that crosses a moat, and then you get inside the building. So they built a moat on this island. So they surrounded the fort with water that was surrounded by water. So they like did double time with this because the fact that there was like prisoners and all and on this island. So most of the time that we were there, it was pretty quiet. There was reenactors there and tour guides and all that stuff. And we stayed there all day, having a great time, really getting to know the history of the place and just really, really enjoying it. We got to see the cannons and old paintings, the dining hall where they kept the prisoners on the outside. And then towards closing time, we were one of the last people there, and me and my mom had asked if we could go down to the dungeons and check out the dungeons before they closed up. We were the only people down there. They let us know that we were the only people going down there. So we know for a fact we were the only people down there. So we got to walking, and almost as soon as we get down there, I mean, it was chilly. I mean, the temperature immediately dropped about 10 degrees. So I was like, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, that's normal for like a dungeon. You're underground. You're going to get a little colder. And then we start walking. And then I noticed, I was like, start listening. I'm like, I walk a little bit. There's walking behind us. I look behind us and there's nobody there. Like I could see to the entrance. There was nobody there. And then I start walking and then I hear the footsteps again. And at this point, my mom starts freaking out. She's like, oh my God, Vicky, I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here. Do you hear that? I want to get out of here. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I want to keep exploring because at this point, I'm giddy. I'm in my glory right now. Like, oh, I get to experience a ghost. And the footsteps, they sounded like hard soled boots, like what the Civil War soldiers would have been wearing at that time. And like this kept on happening every time we would walk the footsteps would start walking along with us. And my mom, she's like, "Okay, Vicky, we got to get out of here. I'm not liking this. And I started going up steps. It's like, but mom, I want to keep going. Like, I want to keep experiencing this. I want to see if they're going to follow. But my mom was adamant. She's like, we got to get out of here. So she the fastest I've ever seen her walk with a stroller, mind you, because my sister was a baby and still in a stroller. She was faster than me, which I was young at that time. I was like 12 years old at that time, and she was booking it out of there. She's like, I don't ever want to go down there again. The vibes were bad. Did you hear them footsteps? They were disembodied. I was like, there was nobody there. And I was like, that was so cool. And my mom was like, no, it wasn't. I don't like it. I don't like that. It was evil. I'm like, mom, it was a ghost. It was 100% a ghost. It was 100% a disembodied footsteps. And it was like, that just made my day because that's the whole reason I wanted to go there was to experience something paranormal. Because at that time, I was a huge Ghost Hunters fan. And they had actually done a tour. They did an investigation at Pea Patch Island, Fort Delaware. And I'm still a huge fan of them. Like, they are my heroes. They are the people that I looked up to the most growing up because of what I was going through. And like, I was in my glory. It's like, I experienced what they experienced. Like, that was so cool. And I'll never forget that. Like, that was a highlight, man. That was that was so cool. And I actually had talked to one of the employees that worked there as like reenactors. I was like, do people experience what we just experienced? They're like, oh yeah, that's a common occurrence down there, that disembodied footsteps. And they always say it sounds like hard soled boots.
Did your mom, even since then, since that was a while back, has she mentioned why she was so adamant that it was something evil?
She said she got the ick feeling, like she got icky feeling. She didn't like the vibes down there and she immediately got scared. So, knowing now what I didn't know then, that she's a sensitive just like I am, I believe her. Like, it could have been a spirit that maybe not have had the best intentions. It could have been one of the prisoners, or it could have been one of the soldiers that kept the prisoners down there. Either way, probably wasn't the best person
Yeah.
at that when they were alive.
Yeah, because even if the prisoners are meant to be there, there still can be a lot of mistreatment at the hands of the guards. So,
Oh yeah, and they were well known for really mistreating the prisoners. It's said that some of the prisoners that tried to escape ended up drowning because they would rather drown than be in that prison.
well, it looks like the place is made of stone, right? So,
Yeah.
the theory is that natural elements like stone will hold on to things like that, forever. It'll be imprinted in there. It could be happiness, it could be sadness, could be pain, could be anger.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's surrounded by running water, the
Mm,
fact that water also holds memory
yes.
along with natural stone, that just kind of doubles up on the energy that's stored there, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pea Patch Island in Fort Delaware. I encourage you guys to look that up. Yeah, I was looking at some of the photos and stuff, and I'm like, man, that looks like a really, really cool place. But a lot of places like that, especially with you guys out there on the east side, you got a lot of history. It goes a lot further back than some other places in the United States. So, well, Victoria, we will absolutely be in touch still because I'm going to be sending off specifically your portion with what you spoke about with the doll in your attic, and we'll see what's doing with that and see if we can get some help for whatever's stuck behind in the house. I think that that's something important to do. But thank you so much for coming on and being willing to share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having